Okay, so this is probably my second time trying to make this video. But I'm going to try this again. Hello everyone, my name is Chris. I usually go by WoundedPancakes, but sometimes I go by Chris Pancakes, especially for the past few years now. I kind of wanted to make this video for a long time now, and I wasn't sure exactly how to start it off. Mostly because it is a sensitive subject for me to talk about, but it was always hard for me to articulate my words in a video format rather than just trying to explain myself with friends. And my friends can tell you that I always go off tangent no matter how many times I try to tell a proper story. Which I guess it makes sense as to why I want to try to make a more structured video as to what I want to talk about today. And that's mostly why I'm here. I kind of wanted to talk about just something small, which is the trauma that I have for streaming nowadays. But it actually began a lot further than that, and it still continues till this day, but I actually do a pretty good job at managing it just for myself because it's still something for me that is hard to process, essentially. So back then I actually was able to get into streaming around 2014, give or take, and around that time I was part of the fighting game community, mostly Street Fighter, and I met a couple of people through a great streamer. I was able to just associate myself with the community at large, or just at this small circle. So within that circle, I just gave myself the confidence for me to start streaming. And over time, whenever they weren't streaming and I was streaming, I usually had the group around 5 to 6 people at a time enjoying the stream, as well as some newcomers that would come by and enjoy the stream themselves, whether it was Street Fighter, or if it was just some stupid Sonic stuff that I'm doing as of now, or just even just a single player game that was pretty niche. But I think over the times, I would say between 2014 to 2019, it started to progressively become something of a concern for me whenever I would stream. Basically, I don't know how to word this exactly because it's a long story for me to discuss, but if I'm going to try to summarize it, it's a quote that I've always thought of from whenever I was streaming at that time, which was, "Pancake, no one takes you seriously, you're just a meme of the group." And for myself, that was really hard for me to digest exactly why they would say something like that. And then over time, it was more apparent as to why they would say that was because I was the joke, and I was kind of like at the low spectrum of the group as to how they sometimes saw me. Granted, I don't blame them to a degree because I was pretty immature. I did come from a pretty heavily secluded place from my mother and the religion that I grew up with, and that did make me immature as I went into my 20s. I did have a very goofy personality, and I think I still do, but it's a lot more toned down, and I would say quote-unquote mature, but that's just up to people to decide. But I would say definitely around that time, especially in my 20s, I was very goofy. So goofy that I was definitely not in the right crowd. And I think that was one of my biggest issues as to the crowd that I was with. So if you take that into account, over time, it was just more or less the fact of I wasn't necessarily not really respected, but more or less just kind of joked upon no matter if it was serious or not. And every single time I would ever voice my opinions or have fun with it, it was either shut down or joked about around anything that I would do. This mostly translated into my streams and also into the videos that I would make for any purpose really. And I died. Nice. Towards 2016 to 2018, there was just this huge surge of let's try to look at whatever Pancake is doing and joke about it and do whatever it is to just make fun of it. It was kind of like a pastime event for them, and I wish I was joking, but I know this for a fact because I sneaked into a server that they were part of out of concern for how they were still treating me, and it showed that it never stopped, despite the fact of me trying to diverge away from the group. I know it seems childish nowadays to say about it, and probably back then, but I guess if you take into account, they were the only closest people that I knew in terms of friends, and I was just secluded into my own mentality that I thought I was in a close friendship with a lot of them. So as time passed by, I was trying to do my own thing, but even when I was trying to do my own thing, I also noticed that I was being taken screenshots of whatever I would say in the servers, whether if it was something goofy or stupid. I know somebody that probably had over 100 screenshots of me saying the stupidest things back then, even though in some secluded sections, it's supposed to be a safe space for wherever I was talking. I remember making a clip on Twitch, and it was a funny clip of somebody rage quitting the game from Street Fighter V. I remember laughing, and also the person took that clip and changed the title and just took a screenshot of saying something just completely inhumane and ridiculous just for them to get a simple laugh, even if I wasn't part of their lives anymore. It's been almost 7 years. But I think because of that impact and knowing that that's how they saw me for those years, and I was trying my best to either change for better or change for them. And I think I realized trying to change for them wasn't going to change anything, because at the end of the day, I was already established as the goofball. I think I enjoy being the goofball, but I also know people back then that enjoyed me being a goofball and had a great time with it. So sure, I tried to disband myself from that place as much as I could completely and start anew with people that enjoyed for who I am and also enjoyed my company. I think even then, I still had a hard time finding people that accepted me for who I was, and I still just found myself crawling back to seeing what that group that I grew up with was about. And even if I did try to return to that group, I was still seen as the joke, or rather, I was not as good in fighting games as them. I think one time I remember was doing a 1v1 with someone in Guilty Gear, and I just only started playing within the first 15 minutes, and I just wanted to have fun with the guy. Needless to say, there was more encouragement of the other guy winning over me, despite the fact I was just trying to have fun. I could tell you for those next 4 months, they would always bring up that clip that I was doing trash and I was ass at the game, and they would never want to play a rematch with me. I was still confused around that time because I wasn't sure how to respond about the fact of why would you say something like that? I didn't do anything to you. I remember kind of mentally crashing out one time to the guy, and I was asking him exactly what his intentions were to act like that, and he wasn't able to give me a straight answer. Needless to say, he changed a lot, and he also realized that that group was also pretty bad on his mental health too, and he told me that and apologized for how he acted back then. It really affected me exactly for what my streams were, and it also affected who I was in the long run. I remember my brother once saw that I was getting picked on a lot. One time he said to me, "You know those aren't your friends, right?" I said, "What do you mean?" He's like, "You know they're just joking with you. And they're also making fun of you because it's easy for them." I said, "I know, but I have nothing else." And that was a really heartbreaking thing for me to realize, because I was right. I had nothing else at that time in terms of friends. I think by mid-2018 I was able to finally diverge away from that group properly, but it was still that fear inside of me about how they still treated me or reacted towards whatever I did. Even though nowadays, I'm pretty sure they don't do anything to even try to see what I'm doing nowadays. But it's always that fear of how it's always that fear that was brought into me as to why I was treated that way. And I still can never get a proper answer as to why. And I never got proper closure. Even though for the past 6 years, I have met wonderful people that reassured me that they like me for who I am, and I've stuck around for a long time with them. And just for myself, I want to say to them, thank you. It's pretty emotional for me to say that, but thank you for sticking with me. I'm not trying to cry right now, but you know what I'm saying. That's mostly what my streaming trauma came from. It's that trauma of associating with people that I stuck around with for way too long and for no good reason, and I should have diverged away a long time ago for me to properly heal and meet people that appreciated me for who I was. Because I saw streaming as not only a hobby but also a really fun thing to do with people to entertain and enjoy. In the long run, it's always better to have a proper support group that would treat you right along the way rather than the negative way. I know I've missed out on some opportunities to associate with other streamers, but I was always afraid that they would follow suit and take a picture or a screenshot or a recording of anything stupid I would say and just laugh at it. I hate to say the idea of me being chronically online, because if I was chronically online, I wouldn't be here in this position a lot happier and a lot more successful than I was 10 years ago. I've learned a lot, I feel like I did a lot, and I've also met wonderful people, and I also met someone that I loved a lot, and they treated me the best way possible. And I think instead of me embracing and being worried about that trauma, I should not worry about it because it's been such a long time, and people like them are just doing their own thing without worrying about what I'm doing. So for me, I'm happy with where I am, and I'm happy to get back to streaming. because this is something for me that I really enjoy. And I know this isn't necessarily a promotion on another channel, but if you like what I'm seeing, I hope you enjoy me on Twitch. I try to stream every other day or whenever I get the chance, but lately I've been having a great time, even if it's not just the many viewers in my stream. I say for myself that it's okay for what I've been through, because I know that in the long run, it's made me into a better person, and also I've met people who lovingly care for me and are still there for me till this day. And I say this because I had to silence my notifications because I'm still talking with people who are concerned about how I'm feeling today. So in the long run, thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. I know that this is a really weird video, but also my coping game is Sonic, still to this day. I love Sonic, and that's not as much as gonna change, and I also enjoy the time that I had playing with it and also commentating. I hope you guys are staying hydrated and you have a great day today. I'll see you in the next video or in the next stream. Thanks.